Good afternoon for those who joined us from MENA, and good evening, everyone in APAC, and good morning to you, Devin. Joining us today are several participants from Cornell EPM, which has two cohorts running parallelly today. Um, HR and learning heads from MENA and India, welcome. And several senior leaders who would want to know more about Cornell DBLP. Before I introduce Devin, thought I could set the context. We are in the middle of a digital tsunami, if you will. Uh, Digital has progressed exponentially over the last decade, and COVID 19 has accelerated the future. Senior leaders will have no option but to upskill themselves in a hurry. Cornell DBLP is customized for decision making leaders with a minimum experience of 6 years. But based on our learnings from our past Cornell programs, the average experience would be around 16 to 18 years. The goal of this program is to provide an effective combination of theory and practice in digital and innovation for senior executives. At the end of the program, the graduating class will be better prepared to help their organizations to compete as digital reshapes the economy. To give you a better understanding on the program, we have with us Devin Bigoness. Devin is director at Cornell and is responsible for the design, development, and strategy for the growth and success of several offerings at Cornell. Prior to Cornell, Devin was associated with Duke C, based out of London. He's particularly interested in leadership lessons that executives can learn from sports. And with this interest, Devin has written articles for Forbes. Devin is based out of the Cornell campus, possibly one of the most beautiful campuses in the world, at Ithaca, New York. Over to you, Devin.
Great, thank you so much, John, and thank you for that introduction. I think almost everybody in the world at some point should be introduced by John. That makes you feel very good in terms of from a background standpoint. But good morning to all of you from Ithaca. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. Obviously, in this new world of we all zooming in and living in, it could be any time in the world for you. So I wanted to make sure I cover all my bases. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. As John said, we are thrilled as Cornell University to be launching the Digital Business Leadership Program in conjunction with John and his group, and based on the previous successes of the EPM program and the number of other programs we've collaborated with John and his team. But we are thrilled to be progressing on this program for a number of reasons. One of the main reasons is that if you think of leadership being a ability to speak different languages, and I know we've talked about this with a couple other programs, but one of the ideas I wanted to plant was this notion of developing multilingual leaders, right? And as John said, the digital world that we all live in is becoming all-encompassing. I don't think there are necessarily any digital companies or non-digital companies anymore. Every company is a digital company in a major way. Perhaps some have more to do with the digital world, but all companies are dramatically affected by the digital world, the speed of the industry that digital is causing, the ability to rapidly ideate business models very quickly, to come up with new technologies that are affecting all of our businesses, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, cryptocurrency. Open any website for news, and many of these technologies will be front and center in the disruption that is in the world today. So no longer can you think of yourself as a digital company, as a digital leader, or a non-digital leader and digital company. Digital is all encompassing. And so the ability to speak that language fluently is becoming a key part of what makes leaders successful. Part of why Cornell is very engaged in this, as I'll talk about in a few minutes, is that digital is a horizontal across the entire university of Cornell University. And Cornell University is a US-based Ivy League university that focuses on academic research, but also business relevancy. And digital is a horizontal across every school, every college, every area of the university, driven largely by Cornell Tech. And I'll talk about what Cornell Tech is in a little while. But Cornell Tech was a game-changing component of our university about 6 years ago when we launched that new campus and that new area of the university. But digital and tech cuts across the entire university as we have it. So I just wanted to share that, and I think part of your interest in attending this session and potentially attending the Digital Business Leadership Program as a program of Cornell University is because you realize that whatever industry you're in, whatever function you're in, whatever role you're in, digital is driving an enormous part of that. So I've got a few visuals that I wanted to share with you as we progress this, and also very open to your questions. And feel free to chat them into the text window. And I think as all of us over the last 12 to 15 months in the COVID-19 situation have become very adept at these digital platforms and the interface between sort of chat and text and questions, as well as the kind of the plenary broadcast discussion, if you will. So as I progress from there. So as John said, so I sit within the integrated area of Cornell University that includes the Cornell S.E. Johnson College of Business. It also includes Cornell Tech. We took the pretty radical move about a year ago to integrate all executive education capabilities across Cornell University, which is in higher education, a pretty radical innovation to centralize, to build the breadth and depth of a university in focusing on executive education type programs. And so that includes Cornell Tech, that includes the engineering school, the computer science area where a lot of the technical knowledge comes from, in addition to eCornell, and in some cases, other very specific departments on Cornell for specific clients. We're working with a client in the animal health space. So the veterinary expertise in digital is critical for them. So I sit within Cornell, though the Cornell S.E. Johnson College of Business is one of our main flagship colleges that drives this academic faculty. But you'll see faculty from across Cornell University as we think about the program ahead. So I wanted to plant, and obviously someone who, as CEO of Microsoft, can perhaps say it a lot better than I can. I thought had a great quote in his recent book, Hit Refresh, about what he's been focused on to modernize and continuously progress Microsoft as you think about what a leader has to do. And I'll paraphrase it in my words, though obviously you can see it in his words here, which is basically a leader of today has to do a couple things that are critical to driving digital innovation and digital progression from a business standpoint. And he or she has to see the external opportunities in front of them. So understand what is happening outside of their company, outside of their industry, to understand the trends that are coming to the forefront. So around digital disruption, the competitive landscape. So he or she has to understand the external environment that they operate in. They then have to understand the internal capabilities that exist within his or her organization. And so this includes, how is digital affecting our business model? How are we working as an organizational congruence? How are we silo busting and collaborating and building new synergies within our organization? And then the final piece is they have to have the leadership for the future to make what I call strategic bets. And certainly, I think that's a concept that we all are familiar with in terms of where are we going to be investing our time, our money, our focus from a strategy standpoint, organizationally. And frankly, it is your success criteria is going to be, as he calls, your batting average. Now, he is referring to it, and some of you might take the batting average term to cricket, for example. Sitting here in the United States, obviously we think of batting average from a baseball standpoint, but I think he was referring to it in both, because Satya Nadella is an avid cricket player as well. And so your batting average is going to be your success criteria. You made 10 bets this year. You were successful on 7 of them. Nice job. Those are 7 good successes that you wouldn't have had you not been willing to experiment and to innovate. And so I thought that Satya framed it very nicely in this book. And in the book, he talks about that, Microsoft, that one of their main bets was getting into desktop computing, right? They were very good at that. The second phase that they perhaps didn't do as well, which was in the mobile world, right? Apple and Google and others did that very well. So the third bet, as he said, that he invested multi-billions in and still is in the cloud computing space. How can Microsoft be a dominant player in cloud computing? And they've done fairly well in that to certainly help Microsoft grow as an organization. So that's just an example I thought was helpful as a mindset to think about as you think about this program. Is this program will help you make strategic bets in a better way, knowing what's happening externally, help you with tools and understanding of your internal capabilities within your organization or within your company, And then how do we help you to make strategic bets? So I thought that was a nice lens to start off our conversation here this morning around that. The other framing of this, and this is something that comes from a number of leaders, probably most visually these days, is the head of strategy and talent for PricewaterhouseCoopers, a gentleman named Blair Shepard, who I've worked with, quite a bit. And so the space around sort of digital thinking around strategic tensions. And so this notion of a lot of us as leaders, when we're talking about these strategic bets, have to navigate two ideas that are important, and it's an and proposition, not an or proposition, right? So what we mean by that is it's not like you as a business leader can prepare only for tomorrow and ignore today, or only prepare for today while ignoring tomorrow. It's an and proposition about you have to lead for tomorrow, and you have to deliver results for today, right? With one organization that we worked with recently in the fintech space, the way they framed it, a critical tension for them was, on one hand, they have to innovate for the future and be experimental, take risks, experiment, and they have to be a safe pair of hands for their clients' money, right? Their financial security. It's not an or proposition for them, it's an and proposition. And so that notion of being both, particularly in the digital world where these tensions spin so quickly, is a critical part of this, right? So your ability to be an and rather than an or is a great lens for you to look at as you think about the kind of strategic bets that you're needing to make within an organization. So a lot of these, and obviously we would work, that part of this discussion would be for you as at a specific level. How do you balance being competitive with your value chain and collaborative with your value chain? In the digital world, there are a number of partnership opportunities that can move very quickly. And so being competitive and collaborative with your value chain is a key one. And that's one of the ones that faculty, I know in the program, will talk quite a bit about, is that how do you innovate, try new partnerships, experiment, and at the same time understanding you have to deliver results. And so I hope that lens is perhaps an interesting one for you to think about your own business. Is what are the critical tensions, paradoxes, dilemmas that your organization faces that digital is expediting and speeding up? And that's hopefully an interesting lens that might deliver some interesting strategies and innovations for you as an individual leader as you progress from there. So as I mentioned earlier, we're focusing on sort of innovation in learning, innovation in business education, innovation in executive education. Cornell thinks we did some pretty interesting things by integrating all of our capabilities to, as I said, have maintained the depth of expertise that Cornell has in different areas, but into the breadth of expertise across the entire university and across the entire space of where we're progressing from there. And so what we have on the screen here, and I won't read it necessarily, is 5 ways that we think the executive education, business education market is changing dramatically. And it's been said by a number of people that COVID-19, while it did create some specific trends and disruptions, what it mainly did was expedite and sped up changes and disruptions that were already in the market. So I don't think any of these 5, that the big 5 that I have here, were not present 15 months ago or 16 months ago when COVID-19 really started, but they have been dramatically expedited and sped up. The speed of change has been enormous over the last year, 15 months in these areas. First and foremost being technology-driven learning. So the very fact that we're having this kind of a discussion and this kind of program can exist across a global technology seamless video platform is remarkable when you consider where we were 3-4 years ago, even 5 years ago. So technology-driven learning, and realizing that the integration of platforms and technology can create some amazing results. It might not be as present in India and Singapore yet, but I think about a company like Peloton, right, which is an amazing company from a learning perspective in fitness, right? The integration of seamless synchronous platform in front of you, good hardware, though they've had some issues with that recently, obviously, but the hardware, the software, the social platform, the sort of community of people working out together, it's been pretty incredible to see. Just as a specific example, there's others in that digital fitness space, enormous, like Hydro example as well. But technology-driven learning is a really interesting component of this. Integration of education for scale, right? I mean, if you think about companies and that are trying to drive massive sea change, The example we use there is, are you a speedboat or are you a tanker, right, or a big cruise line? Tankers and cruise lines don't turn very easily, but they're not disrupted very easily. And so that sort of notion of integration of scale, and if you're trying to drive institutional change, you need to be integrating at education at scale, using methods that drive impact, right? Using methods that really get people to sort of apply the learning in different ways. The purpose-driven learning, this has been a huge part of sustainability from a global basis. And really, how do you use learning to create social and societal impact? I know that's a critical part of the Indian market, Middle Eastern market, Southeast Asian market, and just on a global basis, being sort of a purpose-driven learning. And then again, what we're talking about a lot is this mindset and skills for digital. One of the questions around sort of program development, product development, is how do you do that at much greater speed, right? So people having a much more product manager mindset towards learning is a key part of how this program is shaping up. And again, doing that in a multidisciplinary way. So we used to think as business schools that, if you had everything looked like a marketing problem or a finance problem or a strategy problem, they're just business problems these days. They cut across the disciplines that perhaps we thought of them conveniently to do that. And so just these sort of are some ideas to get you thinking about what this program what it's based on from a design standpoint and how it might apply to you. There's I see one question around sort of product development. And I think product development fits in there very nicely for this digital product manager mindset, which is the innovation sessions, a lot of the application sessions, the succeed part of this program will help you think about product development, product innovation, everything from sort of innovation from that standpoint to the application of that from an operational excellence standpoint, and doing that at a much greater speed. Doing that from there. So we'll move forward. So I mentioned earlier that Cornell Tech is a big driver of our capability in this space. Cornell Tech, very quick story about that, has been about 7 years old. The initiative was founded by then Mayor Michael Bloomberg in New York, saying that New York City's economy was too dependent on financial services. So he wanted a Silicon Valley, Bangalore type innovation campus in the heart of New York. And so put it out to bid, and it came down to Cornell being one of the finalists, and Cornell was selected for that to build Cornell Tech as a campus, but also as a sort of a notion of the university on Roosevelt Island in New York City, which is, if you're familiar with New York City geography, is between Manhattan and Queens, as you see on the picture on the screen. And it's a beautiful campus, but it's more, to me anyways, in my role, it's important to help us drive the ability to work with companies to help them progress in the digital age, right? Customizing programs that leverage the intersection point of engineering, technology, and business. And that's a key capability to balance that technical side as well as the business side. One question here that I think is a really good one is how does the program suit or made for someone who's not from a technical digital background? If you think of that as sort of learning two different languages. One is the language of engineering and tech, and one is the language of business and sort of leadership. If you're more familiar with the business and leadership language, this will help you develop the language of engineering and tech, right? How to understand blockchain, AI, machine learning. If you're coming from a digital, an engineering background, it will help you build on those capabilities and then take them forward also into the learning the language of business and leadership. It would be as if you speak only English and you're trying to learn Spanish. And frankly, if you're trying to do work in Latin America, for example, you would have to speak both languages fluently and know when to speak one over the other and know how to sort of translate and communicate. That's kind of one of the mindsets that we use here, is helping you develop both of those languages, the language of engineering and tech, as well as the language of business and leadership. And I think it's apropos because Cornell Tech focuses a lot on that. We have an EMBA program and an MBA program that is Cornell Tech MBA. And so it really tackles both those languages interchangeably, as we think that's a critical part of a digital leader in the future. So what the program is, a digital business leadership program is driven by Cornell University in partnership with John and his organization. It is based with an Ivy League experience. Cornell is one of the 8 Ivy League U.S. institutions, founded in 1865. And so from that standpoint, It'll consist of what we hope is a nice drumbeat or a cadence of 18 live sessions of 2 hours, every other week, basically kicking off. And there will be capstone projects, there will be intersession activities. We'll be encouraging you to experiment between sessions. This is a really nice sequence that we've come up with to help you iterate and ideate. So you take a session on artificial intelligence. Between that session and the next session, we want you to experiment in AI, machine learning, figure out how to really kind of take content, apply it, and then come back and say, okay, that worked really well for me, or maybe that didn't work as well. And so that kind of sequence is really how we think you build long-term sustainable learning in this space. Getting you ready for digital readiness, so gauging your individual digital readiness, but also giving you tools to look at your company's digital readiness as you think about it from there. Obviously, the group of people who go through this program also form a tight network because of your interactions on a regular basis. And we encourage you to take advantage of that network. Networks are one of the key parts of any business, but particularly a digital business, is you now have a much stronger global network of peers who are doing really interesting and innovative things. And at the last side of it is you will get a certificate from Cornell University in digital business leadership program that you can use on social media, you can use from a marketing standpoint to demonstrate you've made progression, you've made an investment, and you've made progress as you think about your future career opportunities in what this actually looks like. So really, I think I obviously biased in this, but I think we put together, based on the success of the EPM program, the executive program and management that we do, which is more focused on executive leadership and executive management. And so we've learned from that, like any good digital product, version 2.0, version 3.0 iterates from version 1.0. But digital business leadership program, you builds on some of that success, but is tailored and customized to the digital world that we all live in. So the content, as you'll see, is very focused on that. The program has 3 different buckets to it, or 3 different phases to it. The first is the thinking phase, right? Sort of one of the key frameworks and key ideas in progressing and learning is your ability to think differently about the world. So frame the challenges your company faces and you face in different ways. So thinking differently about the world. That'll be the first few sessions, as we'll show here in a minute. The second phase is then, how do you apply those tools, right? You've got frameworks and tools to look at the world differently. Now, how do you apply those for the new world you operate in? So engaging with some of the new technologies and trends, and then applying those for your business. So you hear a session on blockchain. What does that mean for your business, right? And let's start thinking about ways you could experiment and innovate in that as your company and as an individual. And then finally, succeed, right? This notion of how do you experiment, how do you execute, how do you innovate in an agile and changing world? So finally, business has to have impact. At Cornell, we firmly believe that education drives impact and drives progress. And so we want to set you up with sessions that help you say, okay, you've now thought of all this stuff differently. How do I succeed, and how do I do this differently now? So thinking, applying, succeeding, we think are the 3 sort of core words that this program entails that we hope are helpful for you. So I'll go through these fairly quickly. This is the think stage, and as you can see, I'll let you read through these, both to understand sort of specific. These would be the modules. So each one of these, it would be a 2-hour session around sort of kicking off with a big exponential strategies in the digital age with faculty like Gautam Ahuja, then progressing to Dr. Sumitra Dutta, who is our founding dean of the Cornell S.C. Johnson College of Business. Also has been very involved in the Global Innovation Index and in the technologies that are shaping this world. So around strategic digital transformation and emerging technologies. Framing it to, again, a way of thinking differently that is design thinking. So this links to the person's question around sort of how does it help you think about product development? Design thinking is a key mindset necessary for product development. Everything from what is the unmet need, what is the customer need, all the way to ideating and innovating to form a product so you get a minimum viable product together for that group. So and then again, sort of database decision making. So one of the key things in today's world is using the analogy of how do you moneyball your business, right? So how do you do what that book was about and that idea was about, which is how do you generate a lot of data? What insights are you trying to move from, and then into implementation, right? So the insights to information to implementation side of thinking about it. I'm going to help you think about how do you make better decisions with the data that is at your fingertips now. Progressing into digital marketing as one of the sessions. As you pivot to the application component, it's really around sort of some of these driving technologies around artificial intelligence, around blockchain, around cryptocurrency, around fintech, which is a key part of both the, if you're in financial services, but also if you're just in the, consumer, business to business, business to consumer, marketing and value proposition world. Fintech is a huge part of digital payments, and so that we think that's a really rich part of this rich program. So, but then it's all about arming you to do this and succeeding in this new world. So how do you drive execution excellence? How do you operate in a much more agile way, which is much more, speed and disruption and leading in the fog, if you will. And then wrapping up with, again, your ability as a leader to drive change, innovation, leadership in disruptive times. And so building on the, how do you as a leader innovate and progress from there? That's obviously one of the core parts of this area. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up after that with this notion of studio, right? Studio as a word is one of the key drivers of Cornell Tech. And so it's a key part of the degree programs at Cornell Tech. And it's a key part of this program, which is, you've got a lot of tools. You've got a lot of ideas. Now let's put you in what we're calling studio sprints so that you can progress this way, right? So a studio sprint is your ability to work in teams, to collaborate on innovative ideas, to form flat multidisciplinary teams that will innovate and ideate products together and programs together and innovations together. So really excited to do this. This is a core part of the Cornell Tech experience. If you were to come to Rosewood Island and take a degree program or a non-degree program from Cornell Tech driven. And so we're going to give you that on a global basis and do a virtual digital enabled studio sprint. So really exciting to think about how we might do that. The sessions will have the following structure. There's going to be some pre-work, and obviously this will be both pre-work before the first module, but also between modules. Then a 2-hour session, which will be interactive. It'll feature breakouts. It'll feature tools and frameworks and discussions. There'll be some debriefs, and hopefully in the size of the group, it'll be a very interactive and engaging virtual conversation. Obviously, over the last 15 months, we're getting pretty good at these digital virtual classroom type of sessions that are interactive, engaging, keep you present in that. And obviously, we're encouraging that. And then there'll be follow-up that will lead into the next session or after the program. So really exciting about this kind of cadence on a regular basis to keep as if you're doing physical fitness. You wouldn't just do it in a let's dive in for 2 days and that's all we need to do. It's really consistent, a sort of sustained momentum in driving education and driving learning. So really excited about that. We're going to do some gamification, which is all part of the sort of the learning experience between. So there's a platform that I'll let you as a follow up to this, perhaps follow up with John and his colleagues at XED for the to kind of think about more about this. But really, there's a gamification learning experience within the Cornell system around how do you manage and track your progress and connect with each other. So that social networking component of this program is a key part of that. As we think about the gamification from there. And I know, John, you're coming on screen. You're probably, I get excited about this sort of stuff. So I know we're nearing the end of our time, but obviously at the end of this, you will get a certificate from Cornell University, and you will be part of the Cornell community to have that certificate on your social networking. And obviously we're excited to add you to the Cornell family and to hope to stay connected from a Cornell University family. John, it's a privilege to work with you on this program and your team. I know has done an amazing job of standing this up, and we're very proud as Cornell University of our association with you and your organization. So, looking forward to the discussion. And I know you're jumping in to probably maybe answer a few last questions before we wrap up the half hour.
That's right, Devin. That's right. Thanks so much for that. So we have so many questions and so little time. So I'm just going to pick up a few of them. Pinto D'Souza asks us, will there be Cornell faculty teaching this program, or will there be entrepreneurs from outside the school teaching this program? I can answer it. Devin, why don't you take this?
Yeah, so all the faculty have our faculty at Cornell University, but they also have the relevancy of the digital world. They've all worked with companies, they've all helped advise startups, they've helped advise mature companies. So they're all faculty at Cornell University, but also they have the relevancy that I think you're looking for in your as part of that question as well.
That's right. Pinto, just to clarify, every faculty teaching in this program are gold-plated Cornell professors. Many of them celebrities teaching in this program. The second question by Prashant Jha. The live classes are conducted in which time zone and which days of the week, he asks.
So John, and I'll let you answer that as well, but
sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the live classes happen in the mornings in New York, which is 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. For the MENA region, it would be 4 to 6 p.m. in the evening. And for India and Southeast Asia, you will have around 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. India time. And these programs, these classes are run on Fridays. So Friday evening from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. New York time will be the time zone. Then we have one more question. Will there be a simulation exercise to check our capabilities in running digital campaigns in a controlled environment? Devin, you already touched upon the studio sprint. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about that, it would be great.
Yeah, so I'd answer that in two ways. One is each module will have application-based tools, frameworks, discussions around how do you apply that topic and the topics before that to your business, right? The capstone project or culmination will be the studio sprint, where you're working together within your colleagues to apply and create new products. That will also help you to understand where your strengths are, where some of your further development areas might be, as you think about that. So the answer is yes, that there will be real world application exercises throughout, as well as culminating with the studio sprint in the last few sessions that will help that from a simulation standpoint.
Sure. Devin, we have a question from Namita. She's asking us whether we get an alumni status from this program. Do you want to talk about it?
So the primary thing that we're focusing on there is giving you your Cornell certificate and having that as your social networking being able to tout that. There is a growing network of people who have a certificate from EPM as well as a certificate from this. And we hope that is a growing network that we can do more things with in the future. And so welcoming you to the Cornell family as given your Cornell certificate.
Sure. And possibly this could be the last question. The digital marketing focus on social, will it focus on social media aspect? And also, do they get to do something hands-on?
I'm sorry, John, you broke up for me on that side. What was the part of that?
So the focus on social media, will there be a session which focuses on social media?
Absolutely, particularly in the digital marketing module, that will be one of the core things covered there, but also social media and social marketing comes about in a number of other sessions as well, but primarily in the digital marketing modules that we've designed as well.
Sure. And let me ask you the last question. By Irwin asked this question: is the focus of this course digital marketing? Certainly not. Then why don't you talk more about it? Are we focused only on digital marketing?
No, digital marketing is a part of operating in a digital world, but digital marketing is simply a module as part of the 18 sessions that also cover digital strategy, digital innovation, design thinking, all of the topics that you can see, on the flyer that John, perhaps you can provide to the group. But digital marketing is a component because it's an important one, but it is simply a module and a component part of the broader digital solutions that we're talking about.
So like I said, Devin, we have a lot of questions coming in, and we have to stop at some point of time.
Yes.
Folks, we have noted all your questions, and Devin will be responding to each one of them. Our program managers, whom you are in touch with, will be relaying this to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet us. We will be in touch. Stay safe, and good evening to you. And thank you, Devin, so much. Good day to you.
Great. Thank you all very much. Looking forward to seeing you as part of the program down the road. And thank you very much for your time. And John, thank you to you and your team and Rashid for setting this up.
Thanks, Devin. See you around. Bye-bye.
Thank you.